All right. Hello and welcome to Critical Conversations. I'm so excited for today's guest. Renee Anderson is coming on to talk about all things social media. She is an amazing person who I found through social media. We've connected. We're both in Oregon. Renee, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here. This is going to be a good conversation today. I'm Renee Anderson, also known as Wild Oregon Girl. I am on social media. I am a travel blogger. I've been blogging as Wild Oregon Girl since about 2011. That's when my kiddo, I was a new stay-at-home mom, and I had come out of food and beverage. I was looking to just kind of find myself and still be creative and out in the world. And so I started up Wild Oregon Girl as a place to write about hiking and history around Oregon. I'm also a photographer. I used to work in theater. And so all of those things sort of combine. And now here we are in 2024. My page, especially Instagram, has really taken off and taken me all over the state.
Yeah, so incredible. I think I started following you in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I've been in your space and I've loved the way that you show up on social media. I think you do a really delicate balance. And I think this will be kind of like the first question. You have done a really beautiful job of finding that balance between like sharing authentically who I am, my everyday struggles, but also like being the light in a dark world. And so, not only do I love that you're from Oregon, that you travel all over, you have so many amazing tips and tricks to travel, to how to drive in the snow and all these things. You do an amazing job. So I'm so, if you're not following Renee, you need to, especially if you're an Oregonian. But I want to ask this question. You said you started with social media in 2011. What has your experience been? Because I don't think I actually started, like, Facebook for me came out when I was in college, and it was a very different use back in
Yes.
its original day. Like, it was a lot of like dating and, oh, you're going to this party. Okay, I'll see you there kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then like, I didn't really use social media. Like, I got an Instagram page, but I didn't understand it. So I didn't spend a lot of time on it. So for you dove in. What's it been like being on the platform for almost 13 years now?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. So I've been on the internet, I'm a millennial, and so I grew up with, I had MySpace, and Facebook. We had LiveJournal, and then Instagram came about in 2012. And I waited for a little while to get on the platform because I was like, oh, that's so stupid. It was just, it was just food pictures mostly,
Yeah.
and people called it, oh, that's just a hipster place, like there was Tumblr that existed back then. But I jumped on with a personal page, and I did that for a long time. And then I started doing curation for bigger accounts that was photography around Oregon. And I saw people using their pages as like a professional platform, as a business platform. So
Yeah.
photographers, artists, I was a painter. And so I was doing art shows at the time. And I thought, hey, I'm going to switch this from being a personal page so much that's just random and try to make it a thing, like a brand, I guess. Wild Oregon Girl. And so I wrote out a mission statement for myself, saying, what is it that I want to accomplish? Like, what do I want this project to look like? And I still have that piece of paper. It was up in my closet forever. It says 2014 is when I wrote my mission statement.
Wow.
And it said I wanted to focus on all of Oregon, specifically like rural areas, vintage stuff, history, cool hikes, and I wanted my writing around the hikes to be like a narrative, so that if you couldn't come along, it felt like you were along with me. And so um, the platform itself has changed a lot. And in 2020 or 21 is when they released Reels. And that was a game changer for me, because I've always filmed everything that I've done. And I have a backlog of film of Oregon that's huge. And so I just started posting that. And that's when I had a reel go viral. And I had 3,000 followers, which I'd worked really, really hard on. And then I got 8,000 followers over a weekend. And it's been evergreen. So those reels are just constantly bringing new people to me all the time. And then, so now my account, this summer was at 7.5 million views per month. It's just huge. And then the interactions are bigger than that. So I went from just being like a tiny little, like here's the sunset and my lunch and my new shoes, to here's my photography business, to here's Wild Oregon Girl. And there's kind of like a missing piece there too, because I took some time off of social media when I had psychosis and I went into treatment for that. I shut down all of my social media. And then my therapist actually helped me create a plan to go back into social media that was like healthy.
Yeah, and this is why you're on the channel today, and why I invited you. So, for those who don't know me, I struggled with social media because, one of the things that I had to overcome early on was this like doing things for other people, people pleasing. And so it's like I lived my life based on how I wanted people to perceive me or what I thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that a lot of people can resonate with that. And I had to work really intentionally on how I showed up on social media, what I shared, who I engaged with, and more importantly, who I followed. Because I think it's so easy to be conditioned and manipulated. I also, I have a 9-year-old daughter. And so I've struggled with the impact of social media on kids. I used to coach dance team, and I coached dance team initially back when I had a BlackBerry. Nobody had phones at practice. Like you'd get the random kid who did, right? But It's like there used to be like a no cell phone rule. And so I went from coaching and teaching in Portland public schools in that frame. And then now it's like my last year of teaching was 2020. And it's like, before the pandemic even started, it was like we were, as a staff, we were told you can't touch their phones. You can't make them put it away. You can't make them not. And it was just like, I'm out because this is literally ruining our education system. And I was watching what was happening on social media behind the scenes. These kids are like mean and nasty. So cyberbullying, all these things. So side rant there for me. I was really excited that you agreed to come on, because I think social media is two of those things. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It can be so inspirational, so motivational, which is what I decided when I got on social media. Like, I'm actually going to be the light in what can be very dark. And then we do have the darkness where it's a lot of negativity, a lot of people complaining, a lot of like, oh, this sucks. Oh, this is terrible. And so I think I want you to tell us a little bit more about, how you decided to come back on, and maybe you even have some tips and tricks for listeners. Because I think that this is the conversation we're not having, is that it's both. It's both, but your intention behind it is what matters most. So tell us a little bit more about coming back into social media. What did that look like?
Yeah. So I had shut everything off. I deactivated it because I knew I would come back to it. I had a therapist who helped me out, and he said, you have a lot of talents. You have a bright vision. It needs to be shared with the world. And I think that social media would be a good platform for you, because it's going to allow you, someone who might not have been able to make it in a traditional path, to be successful. And the same therapist said, I think that with certain boundaries, like really strong boundaries, it is a positive social experience, as opposed to just being isolated and not putting anything out in the world. Right. And so I opened my social accounts on the plane back home, and I've had them open. But I have some ground rules. I don't check my phone, social media, usually after like 8 p.m. because I'm more fragile in the evenings. I'm kind of worn down from the day. I'm tired. I might take things more personally. And so I do most of everything on social media first thing in the morning when I'm fresh. I try to take some time before I get on it too, which is another boundary. But so late at night when I could be spiraling or having anxiety, I don't go on. If I have something in my life that I want to be really present for, I also don't go on and engage right before I walk into doing something. I have a 15-year-old child, so before we're going to go do something fun, I'm not going to look at the comments or anything. Now, comments are, they're this whole world. I've had to grow a thick skin, which I don't mean to sound jaded, but I've just had to learn a lot about the people commenting, and that it's a reflection of what they're going through and their worldview. It's not necessarily, a personal attack against me. And there's
Right.
also, there's a lot of bots too that will attack you. So what's the difference? It could be a real person or not, but I can't allow myself to be upset over something that might not even be real. Um, Now, that said, if a certain topic gets brought up a lot by trolls, like the way I'm looking or something that I'm going through, I'll use it as inspiration for a way to share my light and my message with others. And so I'll usually write like a little speech about it. And those are my highest engaged posts, usually, is when I say, this is my clap back to whatever this troll or hater said. And it allows me a chance to alchemize that energy in my favor and towards the good of everybody. I don't, my clapbacks are never like, oh, this person's so dumb, like, look at what they did. It's more like, look at the issue that they're bringing to light. Let's change that from something dark into something positive and take our power back from that. So in a way, like, traveling the world of social media has brought out my voice and strengthened it, and I'm appreciative to that. But I understand, like, I do have a freshman in high school, so we've been through middle school and we've seen like the cyberbullying, the group chats, and this is happening to kids that don't have like all the skills that I do as someone who's almost 40. So like, that's where I'm concerned. I can be like an old battle axe and be like, they don't bother me as much as they used to. But still, those comments hurt, and they can really, really hurt somebody who doesn't have support, feels very alone in this world.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, Renee, I love everything that you're saying so much. And that's one of the reasons I still follow you, is because I've watched you get negative comments and I see your clapback and I see you hold on to your power, and you also do it so gracefully. You give them the benefit of the doubt. And I literally have never seen you be like, fuck that person. Like, you literally are so graceful in your word choice. And like, it's so beautiful to watch and witness and see. And you bring up something so concrete in the work that I do with my clients, is not taking things personally. But it's a muscle you definitely have to flex. So you mentioned like the thick skin. It's absolutely a practice of learning not to take things personally and seeing that actually what people are commenting or saying or sharing is more about a deep wound or a fear or something that's going on in their world that they can't quite identify.
Yeah.
And so when we learn how to not take things personally, we do hold on to our power. So I love that you said that, because that is a huge piece of the work that I get to do with my clients. And it sounds like you went through, you had your mental breakdown, you got the support, you were able to be reflected back some of these things. So you obviously got these tools. So you have a 15-year-old, and you know firsthand how hard it is to be a kid right now and have social media. So what are we missing as parents or as adults in this platform when it comes to like not just our kids, but I think, you know, you mentioned like you have the tools and the awareness. I have the tools and the awareness, but I didn't start out that way, and you didn't start out that way. So it's like, what are we missing? Where's this gap?
Yeah, I see the schools are teaching social emotional learning skills, which I think is a huge step in the right direction. We didn't have that. You know, I graduated in 2003, so we had skills. They taught us how to read facial expressions, you know, and to try to identify. You know, they'd bring out the little map that said, "How are you feeling today?" I don't know if you ever did that, but you know,
Yep.
that was kind of like woo woo 90s feelings at that time. But we've progressed, and I know just from participating in my child's schooling that they're learning about, you know, how to treat each other better and how to express themselves in a healthy way. But there's no social media training in school. And so I was thinking about it. If something happens at school, the kids all know about it way faster than the parents do. They're really, really well connected. And
Oh
they're
yeah.
connected in a way that us grown-ups, we can't keep up, you know? And so we have to give the kids the emotional and social skills, maybe even before they get to middle school and high school and are dealing with this and having phones in their pockets. You know, they need to have these skills taught to them, you know, late grade school is when I started to see those social problems anyway in our family with the bullying and stuff. So I think just more compassionate learning, and then, you know, compassionate parenting as well. Just being super involved, but in a way that's not like I'm going to punish you if bad things are happening, but just more like let's keep an open door and talk about what's going on. I think that's really helpful. We had a tragedy. My child's best friend committed suicide at 14, and this happened a year ago. And so we've been through a lot of counseling, and we've had some very, very deep discussions about what was happening socially at school and online. And where there was an issue was just there wasn't communication. You know, there wasn't a place where this person could talk about, you know, what was going on. And so just having, you know, conversations and allowing that to be okay, you know, having places where we can talk to each other without judgment, I think
Yeah.
would help kids the most.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I'm so sorry to hear that. And, you know, in my education career, working in PPS and coaching dance team and teaching dancers, I've had a lot of that as well. And I think that one of the reasons I stuck with coaching dance team for so long is I realized how valuable of a space it was for kids to have someone safe to talk to, and that confidence in my secret's safe here, but I'm loved and supported. But also, like, when it got to a level where I'm like, oh no, we need to get more people involved because this is bigger
Mm-hmm.
than what I can navigate. You know, it's like I had those tools because as an educator, I went through a social emotional learning facilitator program, right? So I got licensed in SEL,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that you're seeing this coming through. I still obviously have a grade schooler, and I'm not yet hearing about it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I have hope. I have hope that it can exist. But I love that you mentioned a key, which I really believe in, is that it's about that open communication. It's about knowing that as a kid, right? And I think back about growing up, it's like I did have somebody safe to talk to. But if I didn't, what kind of an experience would that have been for me? And I think you're spot on. It's literally about knowing, hey, you can talk to me and we're going to figure it out. And I
Yeah.
think that's so key. I tell that to my daughter all the time. Like, I might not like it. I'm not going to promise that there won't be consequences, but I'm here to problem solve with you no matter what's happening. Like, we're going to figure it out together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't
Having
think kids had that.
No, there's not enough advocates for children. It's
Yeah.
really hard. And you know, as an educator that there's, you know, it's not all equal across the board what kids have.
No, it's not.
And
Not.
yeah, that's the hardest thing. I taught preschool, and I had to leave because of that. It was too difficult to see what was going on at home. What some kids had everything and other kids had nothing. And it
Yeah.
made a really big difference in how that kid was able to show up at school. And it broke my heart to see some of the situations.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about, when you mentioned, with your kid, you kind of have strong boundaries. What are the boundaries that you see on social media, that are missing for people?
Mm-hmm. It's really hard what the algorithm has done to us because it's fed into our like our desires and our like addictive sides, and like things are suggested to us, and like if we look at one thing that we're curious about, it will just keep coming and coming and coming. And I know and they're working on it, but the algorithm has suggested a lot of negative content to kids over and
Yeah.
over again. And kids are really impressionable, you know? I mean, influencers, that's influence, you know? That's kids are influenced. People are influenced. I try to be very mindful of what I create because of that, and the word choices, you know, that I make because of that. But I think there's no regulation in social media. Anything goes out. There's nothing that screens it like for kids. So I think that regulation is what's missing, and that's such a hot topic because then we get into censorship,
Yeah.
which nobody wants to really talk about, especially going into an election year. But yeah, I think regulation is what is missing to protect kids, anybody, you know. I've seen the time limits, you know. I think that's helpful. I do that myself, time boxing things. Um, just trying to find balance because social media isn't going to go away, I don't think.
No, I mean, do you see, this has been an interesting topic among clients, who are maybe brick and mortar buildings or service industry. They're seeing less engagement on social media. Do you see that maybe people are starting to do less of social media now that we're like 4 years, away from the world shutting down, and people are really more curious about getting out in the real world? Are you experiencing any of that?
I am, yeah. So, you know, Wild Oregon Girl took off during the pandemic because everybody was at home, and I was making content that was places to go that were pandemic friendly, you know, outdoors. And I did see a drop in engagement for a little while, especially in times of days like the weekends. People are actually out engaging in the real world, and that's awesome. But I've seen a boost in engagement in a way too, because people are really looking for information on how to get outside and do stuff. And I found that content that is very current and very like vulnerable still always gets engagement. Whereas something that's like really salesy or maybe too beautiful,
Yeah.
that people just scroll right by.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, here's my heart, here's my struggle, or even if I'm like, here's the storm outside, people, they like that connection. It feels real. And so the engagement is still there when it comes to that. But like, yeah, when it comes to just regular old business posts,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Less and less.
Yeah.
So talk to me when you say about, I want to talk about the censorship. What's the censorship that you would like to see? What would that look like for you?
Um, I want accountability when it comes to who you are online. I like I like the idea of like having a registered account that's you. I mean, that's why one of the reasons why I have the check mark is that's me, and I stand by that. I stand by what comes out of my brand. I am not a faceless troll on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think that if you had to register and have your name and, you know, your image attached to what you say, there would be less trolls. And then we would be protected from cyber attacks too, like bots and stuff, which are very heavy, especially on political, like news sites and stuff. So that's what I would like to see. I know that's not really censorship. I have censorship that I put on my page just because I have a block list of keywords, and they're words I've chosen because they're words I've encountered, and so
Okay.
they're almost all racial slurs, um, and then political slurs and names, especially in Oregon. So I just have things like liberals, that's blocked. You know, someone's going to have to use different language if they want to leave a comment. Um, and so I've set up censorship for myself in that way. Like these words are not allowed.
I love that. So you're kind of setting the precedent and you're holding on to your power, right? You
Yeah.
don't even give the opportunity for that conversation to go sideways in some capacity, right? You can't
Mhm.
control the whole thing. But I
Right.
love that. So there's a way to do that because I'm like, wait, my mind is blown.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Oh my God.
There's a block list, and then you can set it so those comments either go into review or just are not posted at all. It's helped
Wow.
a lot. I mean, it doesn't catch all of them. People are creative. They're always coming up with new ways to get around it. But yeah, having those up, especially during 2020 when people were just like, "Ugh,"
Yeah.
it really helped.
Yeah. How do you feel social media has supported your mental illness? You talk about it
Mhm.
somewhat on your post, and I'd love to know, I don't want to talk about everything negative. I'd love to know what are the positives that have come about for you.
Yeah, I've weighed my experience on social media. Is this beneficial to me or is it harmful to me? And if it goes to the harmful side, I'm going to not be there or limit myself. It's something I have to be really aware of. But for me, my experience has been vastly more positive than negative. The negative stands out, right? Because
Yeah.
that's how our brain works. That's how we improve ourselves. But positively, it's given me my voice. I have a place, like if I have a poem or a romantic idea or even just a song I want to share or like some creative idea, I have an outlet and I can
Yeah.
put it out there because I was a painter, a writer, a photographer. I have a garage full of just stuff I've made and no nothing to do with it. And so like getting out, connecting with people, sharing my vision, having positive feedback, and then like meeting other collaborators, meeting other like role models and leaders and business people and other social media people. Like it's been amazing for me personally. Like if I want to be selfish, like it's been the
Yeah.
most fun career ever. And I'm the boss, and I get to take it in the direction that I want, and I get to grow and evolve and set little goals for myself, and that's really really important because I have a brain that if I don't have a project, I'm going to be like obsessing. I will go negative. I have to do something with myself. So for me, social media is it. And so I got into art school, but I wasn't able to go because of financial situations. And I feel like I got to make up for that with social media. I was able to bypass a lot of barriers. And
Yeah.
I think that that's positive for so many people. There's so many people who can get onto the internet and share their talents and their vision and their voice. And they don't have to go the traditional routes that usually cost a lot of money there's a lot of barriers that have been in place that social media has just knocked down. And I love that.
Yeah. Who is it? Gary V or whatever his name is. He always talks about like, why wouldn't you be on, like if you have a business or a plan or idea, something to give the world, whether it's a service or a product, he's like, social media is a free platform. Like, why wouldn't you show up there? There's billions of people monetizing on it. If you think what you have to say or share or sell even has any value, he's like, it's free. Be there. Like, and he's a lovely human to follow as well. I don't, do you know who I'm talking about? Do you
No,
follow
I
him?
don't. Uh-uh.
He's great. I'll send him your profile and I'll make sure to link it in the notes here, because he's a very he's an entrepreneurial mind. He has multiple businesses, and same as you, started out just early on in social media and just stuck with it and continued. And he's super positive. And I really appreciate his lightheartedness, but he's also honest. He's like, don't pay attention to what everyone else is doing. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So tell me what's next for Renee. What does 2024 look like? And I know you and I have had personal conversations about this, and I'm so excited for those things. But what do you want to share with the people who are listening today?
I'm excited. I just filled out my Google Calendar, and I'm booked out till July. So I've got a busy year already. I'm going to the coast next, as you know.
Yeah.
So excited for that. I'm putting out the first part of my book, which is going to be an illustrated guide to the Oregon coast. So that's coming up. I'm going to be in Portland over spring break. I'm going to be on 2 morning shows there, and I'm talking about wildflower adventures and more ghost stuff. And then I'm going to go down to the Rogue River, actually, and I'm going to make some safety videos on the Rogue. In a boat. Really excited. I teamed up with an outfitter down there called Sawyer Station, and they've got a fly fishing film that's coming to Bend next week. I'm going to go meet up with everybody. I've got a lot more like outdoor adventures coming up, kind of getting back to my roots of hiking. Last year I was on the road 49 out of 54 weeks. So I'm at home. Oh gosh. And then I just, I may regret it, but I signed up to hike a marathon for charity at Silver Falls. And that'll be in July. It's with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I'm training. I'm already training. So it's going to be a very busy year, but a very wild year outside, and doing more, like I said, safety stuff and fly fishing and hiking and all of that.
Yeah, like don't fall over the cliff trying to take your selfie, buddy.
Yeah. Here's some good boots so you don't slip.
Man, I'm so excited to follow you. I mean, your Coast book, you told me about it and I'm like, dude, this is amazing. So I'm so excited to be a customer of yours, to follow along this journey, to collab with you. I'm so inspired by you. I'm so, the things that I'm taking away today is that, parents really can be bigger participants, start having conversations, that you hold on to your power by choosing the way in which you engage in social media. And that really life is happening outside of social media, but we can share hope of that life within social media. Like, those are my top 3 takeaways. What do you want people to know? What's the last thing you would love to share on this podcast today?
Yeah, I think that remembering that you do hold the power is really, really important. And that you're in charge of your own happiness. Our very first relationship we have with anyone is with ourselves. And it's our last relationship that we have too. It's a consistency. So to just focus on that and remember that you have everything within you to be able to handle what comes at you. So social media, you have the choice to be like, that's not going to hurt me.
Yes, I love this. Thank you, Renee, for coming on and sharing. I'm so excited to be in your orbit, and share all the fun things. I'm sure we'll have you back, and maybe you can even give some more insight, business-wise, how you've grown your business. I think that would be a really cool conversation.
Yeah, I could go on and on about that.
I bet. Okay, well, thank you, Renee. I'll make sure all the links are below. Anything beyond Wild Oregon Girl where people should be following you?
Nope, that is it.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
I love it.
You'll find me everywhere as Wild Oregon Girl.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Renee.
Thanks. Bye-bye.